Now that we have a good idea about what variables are, what methods are, and we've talked a little about classes, what else can we do with them? Well, if you've spoken to someone else about Java, it's possible that they may have mentioned the fact that Java is what is known as an object-oriented programming language, or OOP. So what is an object? An object is a collection of different variables and methods, but they're combined in such a way that they form something. Just like an integer contains a number and a string contains text, you can create objects to contain representations of literally anything else. If you were making a program for a used car dealership, for example, you could create objects which represented different types of cars. So what does it look like? Here's an example of what a car class might look like. We have a bunch of variables like a number of doors and seats, other information like the make, model and registration, which are all left blank by default, and we also have some methods. To access an object we have created, we create a new instance of the object called car. This is on line 6 here. We are saying that the variable car1 is going to be of the type car, because that is what we have said that this object is. The type is the same as the name of the new object. We then have the word new, followed by the object and open and close brackets. So now that you've created an instance of our object, what next? Well, you can change the values of any of the variables, and you can also perform actions in the form of the methods. The object is just a way to group all of this functionality together. What if you wanted to have multiple cars? Well, you can handle any number of objects just by creating new instances of the object. So you could repeat line 6 here, but using the name car2. And all of the variables attached to each car will be unique to each car as well. As I say, they are all unique variables with the same names in different groups. What if you wanted to be more specific than just thinking about the high-level concept of a car? What if you wanted to think in terms of specific makes or models? You can extend the main object, car, with objects containing more specific details. This is an example of how you could extend car class to be more specific, and this introduces some new concepts too. So the first thing that's new is in line 3, where we have public class BMW extends car. You do need to be specific about what you're extending. Java won't know otherwise. Next we have a method with the exact same name as the class, BMW. This is called an initialization class. We have mentioned and used the main class, and we've talked about how the main class is run whenever the class is called. Well, initialization classes are run before the main class, but other than that, they're basically the same sort of thing. The idea is that you would use an initialization class to provide any variables that you're going to need in the main class, and then run the main class when all of the variables are ready. The main things to know about initialization classes are that they are given the exact same name as the class. Like any other method, they can also take parameters in the brackets, although I have not done that here. Next, on line 6 and 7, we're setting the values of the make and model of the car. But you will notice the word this, which we've not used before, and you'll also notice that we aren't setting the data type of the variables either. The reason we aren't setting the data type is that we aren't actually creating any new variables here. We are changing the value of the variables we created in the car object. Because we've extended the car class, you can more or less imagine that when Java actually runs this code, it will copy and paste this code onto the bottom of the car class. After all, that's what extending basically is, adding to it. The word this is used to refer to the object. It's like if you start a conversation with someone about a car. Once you've established which car you're talking about, you don't keep reintroducing the car. You say this car, that car. And the same idea is true with Java. Whenever you will be running this code, you will already have established which car you're talking about, because you will already have created an instance of the car in the launch class. We called it car1. The word this includes not just the contents of the subclass, but also the contents of the class it extends. You can also see that it's possible to create methods specific to the subclass, which might be unique to BMWs. If it was something common to all cars, you would put it in the car class. When it comes to creating an instance of a subclass, you have a choice about how you use the subclass. If you want to use the subclass just to set the default values and use the car type throughout your code, that's fine. Java will let you create a new instance of BMW like on line 14 here, but assign it to the data type car, because BMW is an extension of the car data type. This does mean that any methods that you create specific to the subclass will not work, however. So if you did something like on line 18 here and set the data type to car, you would get an error because the car class does not have that method.